Good morning, friends. It's great to be sharing with you again this morning. And the title that I gave my share this morning is that God's plan is revealed just at the right time. Recently, I've been reading again through the book of Esther, and what struck me and made such an impression on me was just how perfect and at the right moment God's timing was, and how it is today. And I know we've all read the story, and we know it so well, of Esther and King Xerxes and Haman, who was the evil villain, self-absorbed in his own character, and Mordecai, who was the God-fearing Jewish uncle. And the part of the story where I stopped and started to consider what it would mean to me was on the eve of Mordecai's hanging on the gallows that were built by Haman. And we pick up the story in Esther chapters 5, 6, and 7. And it was at a time where the situation seemed almost hopeless for the Jews. There was planned mass genocide for them at the hands of Haman. And Esther's plan, although it had been started and it was in progress, where she had set up a special banquet for the king, Haman, the special advisor and 2IC to the king, was invited, and they had been invited back to a continuation of the banquet the following day. Haman was rather proud of himself for having cracked a nod to attend the banquet, and was bragging about his special favor and all of his possessions, and he was gloating on everything that he had. But he was absolutely infuriated when he walked past Mordecai on his way out of the palace, and Mordecai refused to bow down to him, and it made him so angry. And he was commiserated by his wife and friends, who made the suggestion, why doesn't he build a gallows to hang Mordecai publicly the next day? And he thought this was a fantastic idea, and he thought that he would do that and he'd be able to squash Mordecai like a fly. Haman thought that this was just a fantastic plan, and as far as he was concerned, life was on the up and up for him. Mordecai, on the other hand, he must have seemed like Esther's plan wasn't happening fast enough to save him. He was running out of time fast. Then the unexpected happened. God's sovereign plan started to work. The king that night happened to not be able to sleep. And so what he did is he called for the chronicles and the stories of how the memorable deeds that had happened in his kingdom were written down. And he happened to fall upon the story of Mordecai and how Mordecai had revealed a plot to overthrow the king. And he asked his advisors and said, what has been done? What has been done for Mordecai? What did we do to honor him and acknowledge him for this work that he did? And his advisor said that nothing had been done. And so he was quite upset by that, and he was considering what should be done. And at that moment, the next morning, Haman, en route to see the king to ask permission to hang Mordecai, was stopped in his tracks. And the king said to him, Haman, what should I do for someone who the king wants to show great honor to? And Haman, being as arrogant and puffed up as he was, he thought that the king was obviously talking about him. So he advised the king and said, King, you need to put a royal robe on them, give them a royal crown, and seat them on a royal horse, and parade them through the city, and show everybody and announce to everybody, this is what happens to the person that the king wants to honor. So the king thought this was a fantastic idea, and summarily declared that this be done to Mordecai, much to the dismay of Haman. And Haman was sent packing home with his tail between his legs, and bam, his evil plan had come to an end. Through this and then the subsequent chapters and the end of the story, we see how Mordecai was redeemed, how the nation of the Jews was then saved, and through his faithfulness and through Mordecai's commitment to God. And when I read this story, what really revealed to me were three main points. And the first one was that God's plan is executed according to his perfect timing, not according to my comfort and my desire for a safe margin. And I need to learn to rest in that, not to fear what might happen if it doesn't happen, and get all anxious when we see the time running out. David says in Psalm 31 verse 5, he says, my times are in his hands. The second thing is that the timing of God's sovereign plan will result in undeniable acknowledgement of his glory. That's exciting to think that as God is executing his plan in my life, he will ultimately get the glory for it as he does that. And then thirdly, how we receive God's mercy and grace, his help, exactly when we need it. God knows when he needs to pour that out on us. And so we see how the love of Jesus has saved us, and that same love sustains us, and his grace and mercy is the thing that allows us to live for him and for his glory. In Hebrews chapter 4 verse 16, it says it so nicely, and especially in the Amplified, and let's read it. It says, therefore let us with privilege approach the throne of grace. That is the throne of grace, of God's gracious favor, with confidence and without fear, so that we might receive for our failures and find his amazing grace to help in time of need, an appropriate blessing coming just at the right moment. And that's why I take great encouragement on this morning. And friends, let's be encouraged by this, that God has revealed his great plan throughout the pages of the Bible and throughout history, and that we can trust him for him to reveal his great plan through our lives today, in this day we live in today. And when we learn to surrender to him and trust him with our lives, and we need to also just take comfort in the fact and know this, that God can't be rushed. He knows best. Let's trust him. I'm convinced of this. As we put our trust in him, God's plan will be revealed, and we will see God get glory out of it. So friends, I trust that this story has been an encouragement to you as much as it has been to me. Have a blessed day and a wonderful weekend. God bless.